Hey there! Welcome to the online version of my Bicycle Overnights presentation. My name is Mary McGowan, and I have a blog and Instagram called Rebel Without a Car, where I talk about living car-free. And I wanted to make this presentation about travel specifically, because as much as I love getting around by bike, it's really, really awesome to travel by bike. It's one of my favorite things. So I wanted to do this outreach presentation to help inform and encourage other people to get out and travel by bike. So hopefully this answers some questions and gives at least a jumping off point for you. And I'm always available for follow-up. If you have more questions after this presentation, feel free to reach out and let me know. I'm always happy to talk about this. So this slide deck here is presented by Adventure Cycling, and I will talk about them in just a moment. But personally, I got into bike travel in 2016. I took my first trip. I'd heard about people bike touring, so I asked my dad to do a trip with me, and we rode from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to Washington, D.C. We took about a week. It was 350 miles, and it was fantastic. So the very next year, we did the Natchez Trace Parkway from Natchez, Mississippi up to Nashville, Tennessee. That one was a little longer. It was 444 miles. And then in 2018, I did my first self-contained, all by myself, solo bike tour. And I flew to Minneapolis and rode my bike over across Wisconsin, across Michigan, to Ann Arbor. And that was about 1,400 miles. Last year, I rode from Banff, Canada, down to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, about 1,300 miles, also solo self-contained. And then this past June of this year, I rode 700 miles in Washington State with my friend Laura. And so we did a loop out there in Washington. And then in that other picture there, I did an overnight with some of y'all who might be watching this, with some people in Greenville. We rode out and did a bike overnight. I'm definitely hoping to do more of that, especially as COVID restrictions ease and things get better there and safer. So there's a lot to look forward to there. So while a lot of people are at home or looking for different ways to travel, I thought this would be the perfect time to talk about bike travel, because you definitely can do it in ways that are safe and socially distanced, and getting outside is a really awesome opportunity right now. So, like I said, this slide deck is brought to you by Adventure Cycling Association. They're a nonprofit with more than 50,000 members. One of the best things about Adventure Cycling is that they make these maps with routes, and I'll talk more about maps later in this presentation, but that is a huge resource that Adventure Cycling makes and provides. They do have tours that are geared towards getting people more self-sufficient in bike travel. So if you are interested in going with a group, you can look into their tours that are starting to come back. And the magazines that they put out monthly are another great resource. They have articles and gear reviews and features about different places and different people who are out doing bike travel. The online resources that they have include blogs. They have a new podcast called Dynamo Jenny out. There's tons of stuff to check out, so go to adventurecycling.org to learn more there. They, like I said, are a nonprofit, and they do a ton of advocacy to get people on bikes. You can see their mission statement there is for inspiring, empowering, and connecting people to travel by bicycle. So they do a lot of advocacy work to make that happen, because it does not just happen by itself. They do a lot of really awesome work there. Cyclosource there is their online catalog. So if you want to support them, one really easy way is while you're looking at gear. If you're not able to support your local bike shop, Adventure Cycling has a online portal, and you can go in and they'll get a small portion of the proceeds when you purchase from Cyclosource. So that is Adventure Cycling in the shell of a nut. So bicycle overnights are a great way to dip your toes into bike touring. You can leave from your house, you could leave on a Saturday afternoon, camp somewhere and ride back Sunday morning, for example. So you pick a date, you figure out where you want to go, you plan your route, you get your gear together, and you go. So it's just a really quick and easy way to try a mini tour. Bicycle overnights are really easy and they are inexpensive. You do not need any special experience or fancy equipment. I started out, I know I just said all of these like big, long, crazy tours that I've done, but I started out knowing absolutely nothing, didn't know how to change a tire. I mean, you do not have to be a cycling guru to go on a bike tour. For a bicycle overnight, you get to stay close to home. You might get to kind of explore your backyard or get to see a nearby place. Like maybe you'll go to like a lake or a park that you've been meaning to go to and just haven't been. We all know how that goes. So it's a great way to really explore the area where you live. And I know if you live in Greenville, like me, there are so many awesome places you can go on an overnight. So we're super lucky, but you would be surprised what all is nearby when you start looking. So you can try your first bike tour just as an overnight, or you can plan a bigger trip if you want. It doesn't have to be an overnight, it's just a great way to get started. So in terms of when, you pretty much just mark the date on your calendar and you go. Weekends are great if your work schedule or the people that you're riding with have a different work schedule, then you could go during the week and maybe get a cheaper campsite or a cheaper Airbnb or something like that. So, just go when it works for you. There are these global events such as Bike Travel Weekend or Biker Park Day. So you could plan something out in advance. The next one is in September. I'll get to that in a minute. One thing that I like to do is to consider local events. So there are, say, like bike rides, like races or just like charity rides that go on maybe outside of town, like out in the countryside. So you could consider riding there on a Friday night, doing the event on a Saturday, and riding back on Sunday, just to kind of get the ideas turning there. It's been on my list. If you live in Greenville, you know about the Albino Skunk Festival. I thought it would be fun to ride out there for that and enjoy the weekend. Another thing that we've done, the Greenville Spinners have ridden to a film festival in Brevard. So the last few years, we've ridden the 50 miles up and over Caesar's Head to Brevard, stayed the weekend. We rode up on Friday and back on Sunday, and that we made a whole weekend out of it. So just think about like things that you could bike to, even if it's just biking to a friend's house. That is an overnight. So you can start as small as you want to, and just think about the when. Of course, weather is part of this. So that last point is think about the season that you're riding in. You probably don't want to do like a ton of mileage in the middle of July, just depending on like if it's super, super hot, just, you'll want to take weather and the climate into account when you're planning. So Biker Park Day and Bike Travel Weekend are the same weekend this year. It's going to be September 25th to the 27th. And usually Bike Travel Weekend is the first weekend in June, but they're combining them this year because our spring got all crazy with COVID. So they moved it to September this year so that we have time to plan a socially distanced bike ride and hopefully reach a whole bunch of people and still get to enjoy Bike Travel Weekend and Biker Park Day, just with our 2020 safety protocols, of course. So this is a map of where registered rides are happening for Biker Park Day and Bike Travel Weekend in September. This is growing every day. You can add your own ride, and if you register your own ride, there are sponsors that have joined with Adventure Cycling, so you could even win a bike. So that is a great reason to register. I registered a ride last year or the year before, I think, and I got a nice patch, and I think I was one of the first 100 to register, so I got some coffee. So there are some nice perks there for registering a ride, but of course the most important thing is that you're encouraging people to get out, and you're also showing we have this many rides happening across the country on one weekend. It really shows the impact that adventure cycling has. It helps them in their mission, and it helps them with their advocacy. And it really shows how much of an impact bike travel and bike tourism has. So it helps local economies. It's just a really good thing to register your ride and get involved in these things if you can. So this is one fun opportunity, but there are plenty others. Just one to keep in mind is Bike Your Park Day. And of course, Bike Your Park Day is specifically encouraging people to get out and enjoy public lands on a bike. So if you're near a place like that, this is a great opportunity to win some stuff and do some good. So in terms of where, you're going to pick a spot to ride to where you can spend the night. That could be camping, you could stay in a hotel, anything that you want. You could stay with friends and family. Warm showers hosts during non-COVID times are a great opportunity. You could always message them and ask to camp in their backyard or something, depending on your comfort level. Warm showers, if you're not familiar with it, is a site that's like couch surfing, but it's for bike packing. So it's people who understand that when you're out on a bike all day, you really just want to shower, clean up, and sometimes they offer a place to stay or a meal, but generally it's like a hosting site. So you can check that out, and I've used it a lot, so feel free to ask me about that if you want. Something that I've had luck with lately, especially given how many things are closed because of COVID, has been hip camp. And that's when people kind of Airbnb out their land where you can camp maybe near a stream or running water, where it's pretty primitive facilities, but it's all you need. So I think hip camp is run through Airbnb. And because so many things are closed and sometimes you're planning last minute and things are all reserved if they are open, a lot of people are wanting to get outside right now. So I just wanted to put in a plug for hip camp because I had really great luck. I had some great experiences on there recently. So definitely encourage people to check that out. And then just remember to keep the distance in with your abilities. So it's tempting to just bite off more than you can chew, but it's okay to start small. It's okay just to test the waters and see what you're comfortable with and then go from there. And speaking of distance per day, this chart here gives an idea of how many miles you might expect to cover depending on the terrain, how much stuff you're carrying, and where you are, basically. So I might ride 17 miles per hour in a group ride on my road bike, but I typically go like 11 or 12 when I'm on a tour and I'm stopping for pictures and looking at scenery and checking the map and eating ice cream. So just something to keep in mind there and kind of figuring out, all right, how long is it going to take me to get this many miles away? So if you want this chart too, I can send it to you. So planning your route, you can use Google Maps. You can also use resources like Adventure Cycling. They have their maps online. You can download them on an app on your phone. You can buy their maps here as well, this type. And you can use local road maps. You can grab a route from someone that you know. Just keep in mind things like distance, what kind of train you're going on, what services, so like where are food stops, where are water stops, where can you fix your bike, where things are just like along the road, where things are that you might need to refuel, restock, and if you have a fallback option, say you have a campsite planned, it might be good to know like where a hotel is, just in the off chance that something went awry with like your gear or something like that. just things to look at as you're planning your trip. And then, of course, if you do use adventure cycling maps, all of this stuff is in the maps. They're made of this like plastic material, so they're weatherproof. They have, in addition to like the map panels that have the details for each specific area, they have lists of campsites, they have and lodging, they have the elevation profile on here, and they also provide some background like history and weather and climate and scenery and traffic. So if you are on an ACA route, highly recommend you use their maps. They're just they're kept up to date. They're just really good maps. They know what they're doing with these. So this is, excuse me, the overall map nationwide of the adventure cycling routes. You can see a couple there on the west side go up into Canada. I have used these on almost all of my trips that I've done, and they have just been super helpful. Now you can see if you live in an area that's not on one of these major routes, there are other routes that you can do for an overnight. If you're planning a longer trip and you want some ideas of, like, say you've always wanted to do the California coast, for example, or you want to bike across the country, adventure cycling is definitely something to look at. So there are other routes that you can look at for bike overnights that are specific to your area. So if you're like me and you live in upstate South Carolina, and you can see there's no like national route there that goes through there, don't worry, there's other resources too. The app is the digital version of the maps. I use both. I love to run it on my phone because it works in airplane mode, it works offline, and I can just check where I am really quick, or see how far it is to my campsite. But it's good to have the map just in case something happens to your phone. So it's good to have both, but the app works really well. That's just like my honest opinion. I just really like the app for sure, the maps in general. And then the bicycle route system is another resource that you can look at, and they are planning this national corridor plan to designate these bicycle routes, and that helps with traffic planning, that helps with road design and road planning to designate these routes. So the USBRS is also always looking for support and is a great advocacy group as well. So bike overnights specifically is when you're looking for like a short 1 to 2 night trip, and this website just off of adventure cycling is like a blog, and it gives a lot of like shorter stories that you can look into, and you can submit your own to bike overnights and say, hey, this is my story, and you can just share your own trip there. There also, you can see gear lists and resources as well for you to look into what all you might need. And if you are looking for a route, like I said, you might be looking for something in your own backyard and you may not be on an adventure cycling route. You don't have to be. You can get a ride off of Ride with GPS or something off of Strava from someone local. You can check the Rails to Trails Conservancy. They have a great interactive map that is especially good if you are biking with your family or bringing kids along. That way you're staying off the roads and you have a more peaceful experience if you're looking for a place to go on an overnight and you might be near a rail trail. So you can check that out. Bikepacking.com is a great resource. I have done a couple of their routes as well. They are geared more towards gravel and mountain biking versus like touring on a road. So they have some different routes as well. So if you live around Greenville or Western North Carolina, for example, then Bikepacker has some great things that routes that go through Pisgah and DuPont, and you can download and refer to their maps as well to give an idea of where to go. So wherever you go, you don't need a special bike. You don't need to buy a whole lot of stuff. You certainly can. And I love gear. I'm a big gear head, but you can use whatever you've got. You just need to be able to fit it on your bike, and you need to have, you know, the basics in terms of safety. So your bike should be tuned and ready to go, and you should have your kit. So I keep mine in a saddlebag here, and it's got a tube and or a patch kit. I keep a small pump in one of my panniers, and then a tire lever, multi-tool, all of that good stuff is in my saddlebag. So really anytime you're riding, you should have all of that in there just in case you get a flat. And even if someone has to help you, you'll have what you need to fix the flat in there. So there's my little pitch for that. But those are the bike basics. Now you can set your bike up however you want to. You can do fully loaded. This bike behind me is set up with front and rear racks, and so that it can take panniers. It's ready to just be loaded down with stuff and roll. This is my commuter, but I can also use it for a road touring setup. It's a steel frame. It's rugged, it's ready to roll. So if you have a road bike, you might want to go for that credit card option, and you might try an overnight where you just stay in a motel or an Airbnb and you don't have to bring all your camping and cooking stuff. And you basically just have emergency items, a change of clothes, snacks, basically just things for the road. And this option also works if, say, you were meeting a friend. Say your friends wanted to camp and they were driving up, you could meet them and share a campsite. You could bike there, and maybe they could bring your gear for you if you ask nicely. So then the next one would be bike packing, and that is a really fun one to do. If you have a mountain bike or a gravel bike, this works great. The idea is that if you're on trails and you're off of pavement, you're going to want a little bit more maneuverability on your bike. So this setup is more centralized. You've got your frame pack in the middle of your bike. You've got your seat pack instead of wider panniers. And you have your front roll, which might have like your bed roll and stuff on your handlebars. So that's why bike packing looks a bit different than a fully loaded setup. And then the last one is mix and match, because really you can attach stuff however you want. You can put panniers on, you can put a big seat pack, a frame pack on, you can do a hybrid version of all of these setups, as long as things aren't flying into your wheel, as long as things are secured and attached and you can roll, then it'll work. So I'm not going to tell you that there's like some right or wrong way to do it. Really, one of the best things about bike touring is how creative you can get with it, and you can try different things and experiment and figure out what works for you. So I typically get my gear pile together before I go, and then I look at my big gear pile that I've thrown together, figure out what I really need in it, and then I figure out how to get it on my bike. So that's usually racks and panniers. The guy in the picture there is pulling stuff on a trailer. So if you know someone with a trailer, you could use a kiddie trailer. You can find them on Craigslist. Some people like just pulling their stuff along, and then they don't have to figure out how to get it on their bike. They can just pack it and pull it. Otherwise, you're going to be figuring out how to attach it to the bike. If you're just doing an overnight and you don't want to go down the rabbit hole of attaching stuff to your bike, and it does fit in a backpack, you could use a backpack, especially if you're not going very far. Just know that your position on a bike and the heat and the weather usually means that you're going to be uncomfortable with a backpack. That's my experience, but I know some people who do it and they don't seem to mind it. So personal preference there. So that is packing. Now you can, again, get really creative with this. So you can invest, if you want to do errands on your bike, by the way, as a bike commuter, I have to put in a plug for this. If you want to skip a car trip at home sometimes, I would recommend panniers because I use these for getting groceries. These are my Ortlieb packs. I use these um, almost every day going to work. I just throw my stuff in them and I go. So for me, they were worth the investment because I use them a lot. So it's just something to consider. If you're really interested in this and you really want to just dive in and you're going to buy gear, my personal recommendation is when you buy quality, you cry once. So I personally made the mistake of buying like a cheaper tent and some cheaper panniers. They didn't last. They weren't waterproof. They didn't hold up, and they just weren't good quality. So I didn't have as good an experience in them. So I will say, if this is something that you do want to buy gear for, just consider maybe not buying the cheapest option, because I made that mistake and I regretted it. So that said, I know people who have made panniers out of cat litter boxes, and they're waterproof and they work great. So you can rig up whatever you want to. And believe me, if you don't want to spend money, you do not have to. So you can borrow stuff. You can look for gear that's used. You can buy it secondhand. You can share. Sometimes you can share like a larger tent with your partner or a friend. So you can also find an indoor location, like biking to a friend's house, so that you don't even need a tent. So just feel free to think outside the box, litter box, and consider some of these that you'll see these on the internet. And the cat litter box is on Instructables, so a lot of people do them. They work. Okay, so for equipment, you're going to want to bring the essentials. And in an overnight, will help you figure out what is essential and what's not. So we call it a shakedown ride, and you might figure out, oh, wow, I really thought I needed, 2 forks, or I don't know, like 3 changes of clothes or something. And when you go out there, you realize what you need and what you don't. So you can fine tune and figure out as you go. I have figured out that I like to bring coconut oil on my trips because it works as like 5 different things. I can use it as a lotion. I can use it for cooking. I can do all these different things with it. So I've figured out like little things that I like, and you will too. This is just like a general rule of thumb list here. Okay, the next thing is you want to be visible. So you want to wear bright colors and reflective gear for safety. And this is not when you want to really wear all your dark, cool, black like kits. You go slower on a touring bike. So when a car does pass you, it's going to feel even faster. And you're just going to really help out the drivers by being visible. The more visible you are, the more time someone has to respond and pass you carefully and just drive safely around you. So definitely think about that when you're packing your clothes and any lights and reflectors. When you're looking at camping and cooking gear, think about lightweight. Think about things that are used for like backpacking or hiking the Appalachian Trail versus what people buy for or gather together for car camping. A lot of car camping gear is bulky and heavy, and so if you have the option to get lighter weight stuff, it's really going to pay off. You're going to have more room in your panniers, and you won't be nearly as weighed down. So if you have the option, definitely go smaller and lighter. And then, of course, helmet, lights, lock, those are just essential for obvious reasons. In terms of what you're going to pack with you, generally speaking, you'll want some bike clothes, maybe one to like wash. If you're on a tour, I have like my dirty set and my clean set that I alternate, and I just hand wash as I go along. And then I have a set of off the bike clothes. So I go for like a pair of comfy pants or leggings and a t-shirt so that I can sleep in it or go to dinner in it. but off the bike clothes. And I love having a pair of sandals because I just really like to take off my bike shoes after a ride. So you may need rain or cold weather gear, depending on where you are and what the weather forecast is. So consider that. And then things like sunscreen, your toothbrush, soap, and any other toiletries, medications as well, of course. So in terms of a flashlight, I personally use my front light, my headlight lamp on my bike. I'm usually not riding at night, so that's more my flashlight than it is my bike light, but I don't pack a separate flashlight personally. Of course, you'll want to bring your phone, any other gadgets. I don't bring a whole lot, but like a charger, a good charging cord, and a battery pack. That's not on this list, but I like to bring a battery pack because I take a lot of pictures on my phone, I record Strava, and I just like to have a backup battery because it comes in really handy for me. And then of course, snacks and hydration. Just think about, you're going to be eating a lot, you're going to be burning a lot of calories when you're biking someplace. So have plenty of easy grab like granola bars and trail mix kind of snacks. And then hydration. Think about how hot it's going to be. Think about your water stops. Think about if you're going to need a filter or not. For my last trip, I brought 2 water bottles and a kind of camelback that attaches to my bike. So I had tons and tons of water because I wasn't really sure how many water stops we'd really be wanting to make. Right now with COVID, we're trying to minimize interactions, so it's good to pack a lot of water and a lot of snacks so you don't have to stop and you can skip those little trips inside gas stations and stuff like that. So for sleeping, you can, again, choose your comfort level. Some people are good just stringing up a hammock, and some people want glamping. So again, you really just need your backpacking tent, which is like a lighter weight tent, not like a big, massive car camping tent, a sleeping pad, and a sleeping bag. And you should try out your gear like in your backyard, or if you don't have one, a friend's backyard. It's good to like familiarize yourself with how to set up your tent or how to string up your hammock, just so that you know. The first time I bought a hammock, I didn't know that the straps weren't in the bag. So if I had gone out on an overnight, I would have been sleeping on the ground because I didn't realize I needed straps for my hammock. So there's just things like that that are good to figure out before you get out there. Of course, if you're sleeping indoors, there's even less to worry about, and you can plan accordingly. So for food, you'll have the option of going to a restaurant. If I'm biking out somewhere, maybe I'll find a place for dinner nearby, so I don't have to, I can skip like the cooking gear and packing all of the food. I can go a little bit lighter, and then maybe in the morning I can find a coffee place nearby. If I'm going into the woods, I'm probably going to bring, you know, all my my coffee and my oatmeal and my easy stuff to cook. And bike packing has some great articles. Adventure Cycling does too, about different meals that you can make on a bike. It is not hard. The first time I turned on my stove, I was terrified. I thought I was going to blow everybody up around me because I was so like freaked out by the whole like lighter flame fuel process. Once you get over like that initial thing, it is not bad. It's not scary. People who are used to it are like probably laughing at me right now because they're like, yeah, it's not that hard. So, but anyway, don't let it intimidate you, whatever level you're at. Cooking is totally doable. You can skip it if you want, but don't be afraid to try. I'm happy to show you, or there's probably YouTube videos that do an even better job of explaining how a portable stove works. So yeah, in terms of cost, it's up to you. You can stay in a luxury hotel, motel, nice campground, free campsites, warm showers is always free. So I know right now I kind of feel bad asking for a host because of COVID and people have different comfort levels there. But I have used warm showers a lot in the past, and I've met the most incredible people, and it is always free. So it's a fantastic way to open up your own home and offer to pay it forward to other travelers, and it is a great way to travel for cheap when you're out and about. On my first trip, actually, when I went from Minneapolis to Ann Arbor, I did not pay anything for lodging. I found free campsites. I camped behind like fire stations and stuff, like public land kind of things. And I had warm showers hosts. So for like 20 days straight, I paid $0 in lodging. So bike touring can be extremely affordable. And then of course, if you're going to the grocery store and cooking your own meals, it can also be super, super cheap if you want it to be. All right, so safety. Of course, please wear a helmet and wear visible and reflective clothing when you're out there on the road. Riding after dark. Some people are tempted to do this because of traffic, but please don't do it. I mean, I certainly ride into dusk and things like that, but it is better to ride during the daytime, I promise. Always use your rear flashing light. You can get those really, really bright ones. Mine is a Bontrager 2-mile, I can't remember the name of it. Ask me and I'll let you know what it's called, but it's a Bontrager light and you can see it from 2 miles away. It's fantastic. Always do like a quick ABC quick check. So A is air, B is brakes, C is chain, and quick release. You kind of grab your bike and just kind of shake it, make sure nothing's loose, make sure all your bolts are tightened down before you're going, especially when you're out on the road for a long time, for like weeks. It's good to just stay on top of that and catch it early, because if you realize ahead of time, ooh, I have a spoke that looks like it's about to go or something like that, then you can plan ahead. So just keep an eye on your bike and keep your tires inflated to the correct PSI and you'll prevent most pinch flats. This is my daily TED Talk. And then, of course, please follow all traffic rules. You are a representative of cyclists when you go out there on your bike. And please lock your bike or have someone stay with your bike when you go in, because this is kind of a no-brainer, but you really don't want to have anything happen to your bike, have it messed with, have it stolen when you're out on the road, because then you'll be really up a creek. Okay, so Adventure Cycling is offering a free membership. You can get a 6-month membership if you are interested in trying it out and getting their magazine and checking them out as like a thank you for watching this presentation. They're offering you 6 months. So feel free to let me know. Again, message me on Instagram. It's Rebel Without a Car. Or if you know me, text me, email me, and I will be happy to send you the link to get your free membership, and we can get that rolling. Feel free to check out all of these wonderful resources. Like I mentioned, Dynamo Jenny is their new podcast with women in bike touring. Bike Bits is this fun newsletter that has a bunch of interesting articles, links to just funny videos, just whatever's kind of new and circulating in the bike world. I know we all get a ton of emails, but it's a good one. I really like Bike Bits. And Adventure Cyclist E-Digest will also keep you in the loop as well. So if you go to their adventurecycling.org/subscribe, you can get looped into all of this stuff and you'll get new articles and things when they come out. And like I said, this new podcast is out. It's on my queue. I am so excited to hear the rest of the new episodes. And yeah, so I think the caption for this slide is actually One of the best things about bike touring is you can eat whatever you want. So if you follow me, if you followed along with some of my other trips, you know, I'm constantly eating ice cream and drinking beer and just like stuffing my face with calories. So yeah, so that I think was the context for this slide, but it's accurate. It's a great way to travel actively and really enjoy like the local flavor, literally, of where you are. It's a great way to meet local people. People are always interested in what you're doing when they see a bike loaded down with stuff, and they're like, what is that? So I've met some really amazing people on my trips. I have had just the most incredible encounters. Really restores your faith in humanity. And I just like really highly recommend it. So if you are able to try a bike overnight, I would love to hear about it. Feel free to tag me, email me pictures. I just get so happy when I see people out on their bikes. And if you have any questions or anything for me that I can tell you, I clearly love talking about this, and I'm happy to tell you anything else that I might have missed or might have forgotten, or answer any gear questions or anything like that. So I hope you have a wonderful adventure of your own, and I hope I'll talk to you soon. Bye.